Hi, hello everyone. I'm a tutor of Uplatz. So this is HTML5 and CSS3 interview questions and answer. So to know more about us, please use this website address which I have given in my presentation. So today we are going to discuss about some of the interview questions and answer frequently which is asked in many interviews. So let's see what is HTML5. So this is like common questions, but it has a different answer. So this is one of the important answer most of the interviewer will expect. So it is like recent version is of HTML is HTML5 hypertext markup language. So it is a language for structuring and displaying a content for World Wide Web. A core technology of the internet is HTML. So the next is what is doc type and it is necessary to use in HTML. Yeah, so it is like instruction to a web browser about what is the version of a HTML we are using. So the doc type tag does not have an end tag and it is case sensitive. So the declaration must be very first thing in HTML5 document before the tag. So it is also one of the important interview question. So in HTML4 and above below version is a standard generalized markup language is SGML. So whereas HTML5 is not based on that standard generalized markup, therefore they does not require a reference to a document type definition. So next is question is what are the few features of HTML5? So features of new features is like comparing to previous version in HTML5, they have introduced canvas for 2D drawing, audio video elements for media playback. So it is also support local storage, new content specific elements just like article, footer, header, nav and section. So next question is what is canvas, how you can define. So it is the element of HTML5 which uses the JavaScript to draw a graphics on web pages. So it is basically like a rectangular area in which each and everything is controlled by pixels. So there are several methods for drawing paths, boxes, circles, characters. And also you can add an image by using canvas. So in order to add a canvas tag to your HTML document, we need ID, width and height. So below is an example how to write basic canvas tag to your HTML document. So canvas ID, my first canvas, so width is 100, height is 100, I'm just closing. So this is how you need to define what is canvas when you get this question. So the next is what is session storage and object in HTML, how you can create and access. Basically it stores the data for one session. The data is deleted when it will delete it when the user closes the browser window. So below I am just give the some of the syntax to create that. So just need to create like this. So I have created the session storage called dot block name. So inside the block name, this particular session will be available in the name of online interview questions. So if you want to access that, you just get like this session storage dot name, so that you will get this particular answer. This is how you need to create the session storage and access. So the next question. So what is the difference between cache, application cache and regulate HTML browser cache? So that all the websites such as HTML file, CSS, JavaScript, while the client's connected, so it is not necessary for the user to have access the content previously for fetching. So in other words, the application cache can prefetch the pages that have been visited that are unavailable in regular browser. But prefetching files can speed up the site's performance through you are of course using the bandwidth to download those files initially. So this is the main difference between the application cache and HTML browser, so that you can use that. So next is Previously, I have shown you the session storage. So now, next question would be, what is the use of local storage? So they're done with cookies, but the cookies are not very large amount of data because they are passed on every request to the server. But if the data is not passed by every server request, it's used only, it is possible to store large amount of data without affecting the website performance. The data stored in different area for different website can be accessed and stored by itself. And we can also create a local store, just need to call local storage object. Like below, we are storing the name and address. So the name would be local storage dot name. I have given the name called ABC. Address local storage dot address. I have given the address. So in order to access that, you need to give just local storage dot address so that you can access. So the next to this, how can you list the input types attributes in HTML? So we have n number of attributes in previous version of HTML, but in HTML5 we have some of the new input type attributes. So tell, it is like input telephone number field in the search. So next is URL, is a URL. Email, one or more email addresses. You can type date and time, or date, month, week. Time input values should be of type time, date time local, number, only number can entered in that field, range, a number in a given range you need to enter. Color is like hexadecimal color, like given color code. Placeholder, which is specific the short hint that describes the expected value of an input field. Next question is, what is SVG and advantages? So this SVG is a language of describing two-dimensional vector graphics in the XML file. So it is basically stands for scalable vector graphics. So the points whichever I have given, it's not all the points are not important, so you can just take any of the 2 points and then you can answer for this advantages of SVG. So we have n number of advantages, but I have mentioned only few. So SVG defines the graphics in XML format and does not lose any quantity if they zoomed or resized. That is the main advantage. So you can say, so every attribute and element in SVG, they can be animated. So here is my code. You can check for this SVG example code I have given. If you want, you can run and see. So, and some of the important SVGs to create and edit the text editor is the images are scalable, they can be printed with high quality at any type of resolution, and as already discussed, they are zoomable without any degradation. So next is difference between SVG and Canvas. So this SVG is a language for describing 2D graphics in XML, but whereas Canvas draws 2D graphics on fly. So SVG is XML based, which means that every element is available within SVG DOM. You can attach a JavaScript event handler for element. So in SVG, each drawn shape is an object, so they can change or automatically they can re-render the shape. But whereas canvas is rendered by pixel. So if the position should be changed, the entire scene needs to be redrawn, including any object that might have covered by the graphics. So the next is different between transitional and strict doc type. So the strict is contains all HTML elements and attributes, but it does not include a presentation. Here, the frame sets are strictly not allowed. Transitional means it contains all HTML elements and attributes, including presentation and deprecated. Here also the frame sets are not strictly allowed. So the next would be new semantic and structural elements. So new elements for better structure. So article, it defines article, aside defines content aside from the page, command defines a command button that the user can invoke. So details, it defines additional, can view or hide. Dialog, it defines a dialog box or window. So summary, you can define a visible heading for the detail. Figure, it specified self-content content like illustration, diagrams, photos, etc. So fig caption, it defines a caption for a figure element. Footer for a document or a section. Header, it defines a header for a document. H group set of H1 to H6 elements. Mark, it defines a mark for highlighted text. So meter, it defines a scalar measurement within the known range. So nav, it defines a navigation links. Progress, so it represents a progress of a task. Ruby, it defines a Ruby annotation. So Ruby, it defines Ruby annotation. RT, it defines the explanation, pronunciation of a characters. So RP, it defines what to show in browsers that do not support. Sections, it defines a section in a document. Time defines date and time. WBR, it defines a possible line break. So next is what are the new media elements in HTML5 is canvas element is used. So below are new added media in HTML5 just like audio, video which we have already discussed. Source just like new thing for media source or for media elements it defined inside audio or video. So for embedded content such as plugin track for text tracks used in media players. So we can use the canvas element in HTML5 like canvas. How to add audio and video in HTML5. So just already in my previous sessions, I have shown you the example, but even though I have give you the separate example in interview question as well as, so the first thing is for video and second is for audio. So in order you need to use the video tag inside the video element. It's in the source tag. The type you need to mention as video, just like MP4 or OOG. Same as for audio, inside audio element, you need to add source tag, the type audio. So this is how you need to do that. So the next is what purpose does HTML5 serve? So it is proposed next standard for HTML 4.0 DOM level HTML. It aims to reduce the need of base-rich internet application technologies such as Adobe Flash, Microsoft Apache, Sun, and JavaFX. So the next question is what is the difference between HTML5 application cache and browser cache? So this we have already discussed. So next is like what are the new APIs provided by HTML5 standard, and I have given the brief explanation of that. So this canvas consists of drawable region defined in HTML code with height and width attributes. So this JavaScript code may access the area through a full set of drawings similar to a column, 2D, APIs, etc. Some anticipated uses of Canvas includes building graphics, animation, games, image composition. So that are some of the important APIs. Timed media playback is like offline storage database, document editing, drag and drop, cross document messaging, and MIM type protocol handler registration. So next is what are the advantages does HTML5 have? Just like cleaner markup and additional semantic new elements like we have header, nav, and time. So third is like new form types and attributes in Opera scripting forms. So next is what does H group tag will do? So it will group the heading elements from H1 to H6 elements. So like this, you can group all the H1 to H6 elements inside the H group tag. So next is what are the new APIs provided by HTML standard. So this also we have discussed, which is like canvas and some of the offline data storage, document editing, like that. So what are the new features added in CSS3 for borders? So for this is one of the important question. So for border, border radius, shadow, and border image. Sorry, all modern browser will support it below. Internet Explorer supports border radius and box shadow. Firefox will support border image. Chrome will support border image, like that. So this is how you need to explain. How will you create round corners using CSS? So I have created, for that I am just mentioned border radius 25 for Chrome based on the website I have mentioned, and this all the things based on our convenience. So that I have added one div, so that div will become a border style. So next is what is CSS animation. So when animation is created at keyframe, bind to a selector, otherwise animation will have no effect. So you need to bind the animation to a selector by specifying at least these two CSS animation properties. So one is you need to specify the name of animation. Other things you need to mention the duration. This we have already discussed in the my theory part. So next is limitations of CSS. So like ascending by selectors is not possible, no expression, no column declaration is allowed. Pseudo classes are not controlled by dynamic behavior, rules, styles, and generating a specific text is also not possible. Next question would be, in how many ways we can merge a web page? So inline, embedded, linked. So inline is like attribute, use CSS, applied HTML elements. Embedded is head element, can have style element within the code that can placed. Linked is CSS can be placed in external file and you can linked via link element. So next is, what benefits and demerits do external style sheet have? So one file can be used to control multiple documents having different style. So the multiple HTML can be used, so which can have a classes. To group styles in composite situation, we can use method as selectors and grouping are used. So demerits we have is like uh, extra download is needed to import document having style information. Extra download is needed to import documents having style information. So no practical for some style definitions. So the next question is, can discuss merits and demerits of embedded style sheets. So merits of embedded style sheets is created in a single document. So styles in complex situations can be applied by using selectors and group methods. So extra download is unnecessary. That is the demerits. Demerits is like documents cannot be controlled. What does CSS selector mean? So a string equivalent of HTML by which declaration or set of it is declared and it is linked that can be referred by HTML and style sheets is called CSS selector. So enlist the media types CSS allows. So what are the media types that enlist CSS allowed? So by applying media control over external style sheet, they can be retrieved and used by loading it from a network. So next is differentiate a logic tags from that. So while physical tags are referred to as presentation markup, logic tags are useless for appearances. The physical tags are newer versions, while logical tags are old and concentrate on content. So the next question is differentiate a style sheet concept from HTML. So while HTML provides easy structure method, it lacks styling unlike style sheets. But moreover, the style sheets have better browser capabilities and formatting options. So next is a rule set. So the rule set can be attached to other selectors identified by its. So it has two parts, namely selector and declaration. So the next question is comment on case sensitivity. But there is no case sensitivity in CSS. Only XML declaration on the pages is CSS is case sensitive. So the next is define declaration block. So a catalog of direction within the braces consisting of property, colon, value is called declaration block. So you have property 1, value 3. So that is the example for that declaration block. So the next is enlist the various fonts attribute. They are font style, font variant, font weight, line height, font family, caption, and icon. So these are the various fonts attributes we have. So next would be why it is easy to insert a file by importing. So importing enables combining external sheets to be inserted in many sheets. But different files and sheets can be used to have different function. So the syntax for that is be import notation. You can use the style sheet. So what is the usage of class selector? So the selector that are unique to specify a style, they are called as class selector. So the declaration of a style and association can be made through like this. So A to Z or digits, top, class selector, and body class top. This class is associated with element body. So this is how you need to use the class selector. So difference between class and ID selector is like class is overall block is given, whereas ID it prefers to a single element from the other element. So that is the main difference we have. So in other words, IDs are unique, but it's possible the elements have both class and ID. So can more than one declaration can be added in CSS? Yes, that can be achieved by using semicolon. What is pseudo elements? So they are added to special effects to some selectors used to apply styles in HTML markup, but styling is not possible for the document. But then there is some of the features available in CSS. They are known as pseudo elements. So it will allow extra markup to the document without distributing the actual document. So what happens uh, if 100% width is used along with floats all across the page? So while making float declaration, 1 pixel is added every time it is used in the form of border, and even more float is allowed thereafter. So can default property value be restored through CSS? If you can means how we can do that? But we can do, but we cannot revert back to the old values due to the lack of default values. So the property can be redeclared to get the default property. So enlist various media types we have, but they are case sensitive. Oral for sound synchronized and speech, print, projection, handheld, and screen. But these are not such important. So the next is like one of the most frequently asked interview question, which is like CSS Block Box Model. So the box design layout of elements. So the elements are margin, border, padding. Margin is the topmost layer. Overall structure is shown. Border is like padding and content option with the border. Background color will affects the border. Padding space is shown. Background color affects the border. Content, actual content is shown. So what is contextual selector? So the selector is used to select the special of an element which is called as contextual selector. So say a space separates the individual selectors. So only the last element of this pattern is addressed in kind of selector. So next is compare RGB values with hexadecimal colors. So there are two ways. Basically, they are represented by 6 characters, which is a combination of hexadecimal color coding. So it can be the combination of numbers, letters, and it is preceded by hash. So a color is represented by the mixture of red, green, and blue. So this is a default that we have already learned. So that is the answer they are expecting for this particular questions. In order to compare, you just shown these two examples. So that would be more enough for this question. So image spirit with context to CSS. So this image spirit we have shown in the last topic. So they are the set of images collaborated into one image. They are known as image spirit. So what you need to load every spirit in using spirit lessons. So the time taken will be weekly information. So for CSS coding for that should be like this: width, height, background. You need to add the image to that particular spirit. So the next is, how can the dimension defined? So the dimension properties can be defined by like this: height, max width, max height, min width, and width. So define float property. So they can be moved to a right or left when the text wrap around. Element before this property is applied do not change their properties. How does z index function is doing? So this overlapping may occur while using CSS for positioning HTML. So this z index which helps in specifying the overlapping element. So it would be the number which can be either positive or negative. The default value would be 0. What is graceful degradation? So in case the component fails, it is like it will continue to work properly in presence of graceful degradation. As it is not available to everyone, there is a basic functionality which enables to wider a audience. So that is no more nothing about that. So next is, what is progressive enhancement? So which concentrates a matter of a web. It is same, but it provides extra edges to having latest bandwidth. So why always we are using import at top? It is one of the known questions, but we will not expect from the interviewer, but they may ask why we are doing that: in order to avoid a overriding rules. So that is the exact apt answer for this particular question. So the ranking order is followed in most programming languages such as Java, Modular. They are begin at the top. So next is, which among the following is most prudent? So CSS is more precedent over HTML, which does not have CSS support. What is inline style? So it's the CSS used to add up a styling to individual HTML element. So how commands can be added in CSS? So this is a symbol for commands to add in CSS. So define attribute selector. It's set of elements, value, and its parts, nothing much. Define property, it's like a font have different style like bold, italic. So it is the attribute. and bold italic is a property of that particular attribute. So next question is, what is alternate style sheet? So it's allow the user to select the style in which page they need to display it using that. You can also see a multiple version of that. Or codes are mandatory in URL. Codes are optional, but then you can be have single or double. What is art rule? So which is applicable in entire sheet, not partially. They are known as art rule. It can be proceed by at followed by A to Z, small a to Z, capital A to Z, 0 to 9. Explain how flexibility is achieved more in CSS3. So it is achieved greater in ratio because the future handling multiple style sheet CSS3 because of modularized approach. What is different between CSS and CSS3? It is the most important question. CSS3 is upgraded version of CSS that we know, but what is upgraded? That is the main thing. Just like selector, box model, borders, text effect, animation, these are upgraded in CSS3. So important modules in CSS3 are nothing but we have already discussed: selector, box model, background, text effect, 2D and 3D transforms, which is possible in CSS3 with the help of HTML5 elements. So multiple column layout and user interface. So for everything, each and everything, we have saw a program as well as in my previous session. So make use of that. What is CSS3 animation? Just already discussed. Add keyframes, bind the animation. Two things we need to do for animation. One is to name and to specify duration. So what are the values taken by property of white CSS? So 5 values that has been taken by property of white spaces: normal, pre, no wrap, pre-wrap, pre-line. So possible values of position is uh, absolute, fixed, inherit, relative, static. So these are the 5 possible values you can give for the position attribute. So what is word wrapping in CSS3? It allows to break a wrap on the next line of the CSS3. So like that, it will break the word. So this is the syntax for that. So next is like, what is CSS3 Flexbox? So it is a new layout mode in CSS. So for that, it consists of flex container and declared by setting display either flex render or inline flex. Advantages of script over script based animation. So it's easy to use. Anybody can create them without the knowledge of JavaScript. That is the main advantage. So this is some of the interview questions frequently asked. So please make use of that. So this is all about HTML5 and CSS3. I have given practical demo at the end of each and every session. So please make use of that each program. If you have any queries regarding this course, please write to info@uplatz.com. Thank you.